Heartache is a prevalent topic throughout music history, but why do certain songs really make your heart ache? Today, I'm using 5 examples from Olivia Rodrigo to artists like Noah Kahan to explain the techniques artists use to make your heart ache along with theirs. Welcome to the Music by Mads podcast, the music podcast for mainstream music lovers. So like I said, we're going through 5 examples of songs that make my heart ache and a lot of other people's hearts ache, and I am telling you why exactly those songs do that. Now, obviously art is subjective, so there's some, you might not agree with me, but that's fine. You have songs that make your heart ache, and some of these techniques will transfer over to those songs. So we're going to start with Less by Olivia Rodrigo. This comes off of her most recent album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love, and it has become immediately a fan favorite. People love this song and how sad it makes them feel. So let's find out why. Just from the opening chord, we get the feeling of sadness, and I looked up the chords, I went through the sheet music, and a lot of people actually get this wrong for both of the chords I'm specifically going to talk about, but a lot of people get this wrong of what chord it is. This song starts on a B-flat major 7th chord, which is a very interesting chord. So, a 7th chord, it sounds very jazzy. You think jazz, you think something quite, like, it's saucy. It's a saucy chord. This is like the same thing, except for the 7th, the interval, this is really hard to explain without it in front of me. So a 7th chord takes the major triad and adds a 7th interval from the bottom of the chord to the top. So in B flat major, that would be B flat, D, F, add A flat. But in a major 7th chord, we're just going to use the note examples. It's B flat, D, F, A natural. It actually sits better in the key for a lot of chords. But it sounds very different. It sounds almost hollow a little bit. It sounds it's important. It's the A natural makes it sound much more much more sad in my opinion. And I actually grabbed a soundbite for you guys to hear what a B flat major 7th chord sounds like. So this is the chord you are hearing at the very beginning of Less by Olivia Rodrigo. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. It doesn't sound quite right. And since the A is in the melody of the piano part, it moves away from it quickly. It's been miscategorized as just a B flat major chord. So when you play it on guitar or piano using chords from someone else, it doesn't sound quite right. That's because you are missing that A natural. It just conveys sadness. That A just gives it the extra sauciness and sadness that needs to happen for this to be immediately sad. You know this song is going to be sad because you hear this first chord. Since this song is in B flat major, though, it is major 7th chord is very heavily assisted by a lot of minor chords, which are often described as a very sad chord. It's got the lowered third in it, so instead of a B flat D F, we're just going to use that same chord as an example, it would be B D flat F. That's a B flat minor chord. Obviously that's not the key we're in, and it usually uses like a G minor, even a C minor, so G minor would be G B flat D. Because usually in a G major chord, the happy version of the chord, it's G, B, D, all naturals instead of a flat note. But it makes it sad, and it assists, that's the word I used just a minute ago, it assists that major 7th chord in its sadness, and it continues the sadness throughout because it's using those minor chords. So yeah, at the beginning, we do move from that B flat major 7th down to a G minor chord, and that is often the place we go after we have any sort of B flat chord, whether it's the major 7th or just a B flat chord. And then we have another chord device. Guess what? It's another major 7th chord, just a different starting note. We use that one in succession with a descending chromatic scale. And I almost skipped over this. That's why I took so many breaks when I was trying to say that. Whoopsie. This descending chromatic scale comes during the chorus, where it's right before, then I guess I wish you loved me less. That's the very end of that chromatic scale. It starts, I'm trying to think of the lyric it starts on, and I'm blanking, of course. Why couldn't I write things down? Why can't I see into the future of what I need? It's if loving me means letting go and wishing me the best. That's the part. And that was horribly sung. But you get, it's if loving me means letting go and wishing me the best. That's the part where the chromatic chord comes down. And obviously the lyrics are different each time. But that is one of the examples. So in that spot, we are going from a B flat to an A major chord. So that is way out of our key of B flat. We are having an A natural, C sharp, and an E natural. E natural is generally E flat in this song because it is in B flat major, which is 2 flats, B flat and E flat. And then the C sharp obviously is way out of character. We usually have a C natural. But then we go from that A major to A flat, right back down. So it's taking that half step down. And then we go to G major, which is a true chromatic scale in that, and each note is each note is chromatic. So we are raising that B flat, which is our tonal center for the entire song. But we are raising that, and it's changing the expectation of your ear to go to a G minor chord which is within the key. So that's where we end right before we have the next chord, which is E flat major 7, which sounds like this. And that is where we go back into our tonal center, but we have that raised 7th for the 7th chord. And that happens. It plays the major 7th chord, then I guess, I wish you loved me less. And that's where that starts. So that is it's very raw in the way she's using these chords. It's not a common pop progression, which I really appreciate because I think people get too entrenched in the idea that every song needs to be the 4 chords and it needs to be variation on the four chords that everybody uses. But this is, it changes it up, and I really appreciate that. I think the biggest takeaway about the chords is that she's using these major 7th chords to create an almost uncomfortable space that draws you into the sadness of the song. Because when you hear a 7th chord, you immediately think of that jazzy, saucy chord we talked about earlier with the minor 7th interval. But she's not using the minor 7th interval, she's using the major 7th interval, which means it's a little more spaced out from what your ear expects from a 7th chord. And it adds an uncomfortable space that draws you into the sadness, like I just said. It is very important. I hope this explanation was good. Obviously, this was a really theory-dense way to start this episode, and I am regretting just jumping into that. That's my bad. Hopefully it was very clear. If you have questions, tell me in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them over the comments. It's not that easy, but it's going to be a fun discussion if you have questions. So please let me know in the comments. And then we're going to move on right now to Mirror by Joshua Bassett. So this song comes from his debut album, The Golden Years, which came out 2 years ago. It's been over 2 years since that album came out, and he's actually coming out with a new album this Friday that I'm going to be talking about next week, so make sure you stick around for that episode. I'm very, very excited about it. This is, if you are coming here from my 10 albums that define my life episode, this is on that episode. I adore this album, and I adore Joshua Bassett as an artist. I've done one episode dedicated to him. I will have another one. I love him as an artist. I think he's such a wonderful musician, and I think he should be much more popular than he is. So I'm going to push Joshua Bassett a lot because I love his music. But his song Mirror is so good, and this is an example of a song that heavily relies on the lyrical structure and the lore behind the song to tell its story and to make your heart ache. So let's start with the lyrics, and I'm going to be listing off basically just a bunch of my favorites and telling you why it makes my heart ache. This is where it really gets subjective for people, because some people won't find this quite as sad as I do, and some people will find it sadder than I do, and that's just how life goes. The very first verse, he's recalling certain things from his past, and he's bringing them up somewhat vaguely to bring his, this hazy image of his face in the mirror. I feel like it's really meant to convey that he doesn't really know who he is anymore, and it's like this hazy image of himself in his mind. It's my interpretation of that is strange. I feel, I don't know, maybe it's not so strange. Let me know in the comments if it's not so strange. It's meant to be vague. It's meant to be specifically vague because there are certain details that make you think about stuff, but we don't get very much detail, where in some songs some artists have a tendency to be very specific. Going back to Olivia Rodrigo, she's naming places like LAX. She's talking about very specific, I'm thinking of Cigarette Smoke, where she calls him a honeybee, again, or she had just called him honeybee in a good way, it was honeybee in a bad way. So artists use a lot of specific lyrics, and I appreciate that Joshua Bassett is giving us less in this moment, because I think it opens it up for more heartache for people. Not that specificity can't bring heartache, but sometimes being vague gives people more opportunity to interpret it on their own. So one of the first lyrics that I really wanted to write down, all of these come from the chorus and the bridge. And this first one is, "There's nowhere to hide from the face in the mirror," which really brings, I feel like it brings a sense of panic into the tone of this song, where he's wanting to hide from this face in the mirror that he does not know. He doesn't know who he is anymore, and he wants to hide from who he is. And it brings a little bit of a sense of panic. And I think it really bleeds into, I think this is the next line. Yes, it is the next line, where he says, "The light in my eyes I can't seem to find." And I think those bleed into each other very well. And "the light in my eyes I can't seem to find" is just a very sad line in general. But then he makes it sadder later in the song when he changes that line. So 2 choruses you go through, and it's "I can't seem to find" as the ending. But then on the last chorus, after his bridge and everything, it's like the big moment. He says, "The light in my eyes I lost with my mind." So it's a very visceral change, and like it brings a very visceral reaction to what you're thinking about this song, and it changes your expectation a lot, which is a very good tool that a lot of artists use, especially in a song that can be repetitive. When you're repeating choruses and choruses over, you want to bring something new to keep audiences hooked. And I think this is the perfect change, because it adds another layer of sadness, where he feel like he's lost with his mind. He's gone, he's somewhere else, he doesn't know who he is anymore. And then the last lyric I really wanted to highlight was the repeated sentiment in the bridge, because he just repeats the same phrase over and over again, which is very sad. And he changes the melody a couple times to keep it interesting and new and fun. Fun is up for debate. Fun is for debate. But it's "Won't somebody help me?" And I think it conveys begging. It's supposed to bring on this reaction of like he is begging for help, and he really wants somebody to help him, when really in this situation he's the only one who can help himself. And it's just repeated "Won't somebody help me?" over and over again in what word am I trying to think? Not fraction. Fragmented phrases and full phrases, fragmented phrases, and he's just repeating it over and over again in the bridge. And then he does his little quiet breakdown, and then he comes back full force with the rest of the chorus. Then we have the other part of this song that makes it sad, which is the lore. And this is an example of not knowing the lore until later on, because he just released a memoir called Rookie earlier this year. It was a fantastic book. I want to buy it so bad. I want a physical copy of it. I listened to him reading the audiobook version, which is fantastic. You should listen to it. If you have Spotify Premium, by the way, you do have audiobook hours, and you should listen to that. That's not promoted. I just forget that all the time, and I think people need a reminder. So you can listen to it. It's only 2.5 hours long. And it's Joshua Bassett reading it. And he openly talks about in this book his trauma, lots of trauma. So there are trigger warnings throughout the book for certain topics. But he talks about specifically his drug use. And looking back on this song after all of this has come out about him, where he has been open about his drug use and his journey to get clean and go through that process, and it makes this song so much sadder, because you can tell that this is what he was talking about. And if he wasn't, I don't want to know what he was talking about, because that's already sad in itself, and I wouldn't be able to believe something was sadder. It's probably something that he was not very comfortable sharing at the time of this album coming out, but I think he has made it very clear that this is what that song is about, just by releasing that book and by talking about and being open about his situation. And I think it was meant to be hazy because he was scared to put that out there. And I mean, rightfully so. I would be terrified to tell the world, like, oh yeah, I was addicted to drugs for however long. So I think that is what the lore is about. I could be wrong, of course, but I'm 90% sure that's what it is about. Just with how he's talking about himself, and he does mention traumas in the song that are very, like, the connections are very clear once you know. And, like, you could have guessed some of these things, but it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's what it's about. So those are the devices. I think he uses his lyrics very well, in a specifically vague manner to get audiences to relate, and then the lore behind the song making it much sadder than it already is. The next song I wanted to talk about is, we have been talking about modern songs, and most of these are very modern songs, but this song is what I believe to be one of the greatest songs ever written and produced. I think it is one of the greatest songs to exist. And that song is The Winner Takes It All by ABBA. I think many people would agree with me that this is one of the greatest songs to ever exist, but I mean, obviously music is subjective. You could be wrong, but this song is devastating. It is so sad, and I think the subject matter is, of course, sad, but I think the saddest part and what makes it so sad and raw is the drama and the instrumentation they use to create that drama. Because they start very stripped down with just a piano part. It's very much just, this is the sad melody of this song that's going to haunt the rest of the song. Like that beginning piano melody is present throughout the rest of the song, whether it's with the choir at the very end or if it's literally just playing on the piano in the background, but it is there. And it's incredible. It's so incredible. They just add layers slowly and slowly because they get in with some more choir voices in the beginning, some backing vocals, they pull in some strings, and then on the second verse they pull in the drums, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger in sound. As time goes on, they add more strings, they add more piano, they add everything, and it gets louder and louder, and then it fades out at the very end, which is beautiful. I do love the Mamma Mia arrangement of it, where they have this singular voice at the end singing, Donna singing at the very end, the last line of The Winner Takes It All. But it is the drama that makes this song so gut-wrenching. It feels like desperation. It feels devastating. It's wonderful. And I do think it is one of the greatest songs ever written. It feels, the drama, I should say before we move on, this was a really quick one. The drama feels very sudden because they do strip it down a little bit within the verses, and they like build it up, break it down, build it up, break it down until the very end, where it's just big at the like just all over. It's just wonderful. It's so wonderfully done. I think it is one of the greatest songs ever written. And I recently, oh my gosh, you guys, I haven't talked about it on an episode yet, but my local record store just had a 45 RPM 7-inch sale because they got boxes and boxes and boxes of, I don't know if they were donations or if people sold their 7-inch to them, but they had hundreds. I spent, I think, a total of like 4.5 hours at my local record store a couple Saturdays ago, digging through their 25-cent 7-inch vinyl boxes, and I came away with 89 records, you guys. I was so excited. And this is I bring that up because I got The Winner Takes It All, and I got a bunch of other ABBA songs because I love ABBA, but The Winner Takes It All is one of the ones I got, and it's wonderful on 7-inch. If you ever get to have a 7-inch of The Winner Takes It All and you have a player, gorgeous. It's wonderful. It's a transcendent experience. Anyways, so moving on from ABBA, because I love ABBA. We'll miss them. We'll have to do an episode on them sometime because I love them so much. We're going to talk about, we're not pivoting too far because ABBA is very closely linked with Broadway because of Mamma Mia, and this man is also very closely linked with Broadway because of Dear Evan Hansen. And we are talking about Ben Platt's song Need You Like This from his third studio album, Honey Mind, which it was a cute album. It wasn't my favorite one of his is Reverie. That is my favorite Ben Platt album. But this song, it's a very different vibe. But this song is hands down my favorite. This one and Fear of Missing Out, and I bobbled between the two. But this is my sole example of good heartache, because this song is very much an example of good heartache in music. It gets me so bad. It's in a triple meter, which I feel like is a subconscious signal for us that it is a more intimate song, because a lot of love songs are written in 6/8 or 3/4, because often they are waltzes. They're Viennese waltzes, they're regular waltzes, they're waltzes in dance terms. I also picked this one not because of the intimacy of the time signature, but because it employs all of the previous techniques we've talked about. It employs interesting chord progressions, not sad lyrics, but very lyrics that give you lots of feelings, and it is very, very well done. It starts stripped down in the verses and then it goes big in the chorus every time. It's a wonderful formula that works every single time when it's well done. And the lyrics are super descriptive, so I'm just going to read a bunch of lyrics off that I really love. This is just the chorus. I'm just reading the chorus. If you ever left, darling, I'd fall apart, 'cause the sound in my chest is the beat of your heart. The world is on fire, the ending is fated. Pretending you're strong can be so overrated. So I'm telling you now, not afraid to admit, I can't help that I need you like this. It's creating this vulnerability by describing the passion and excitement, but it's also saying that he's also saying that I need you, and I'm not ashamed or afraid to say it. And it's a vulnerable song, and I think that's where a lot of the heartache comes, is someone bearing their soul to another person, and that is a very vulnerable position to be in, and to bring that feeling to other people is wonderful. He puts a string orchestra, not a string instrument, a string orchestra into this song, and it's gorgeous. And I think that is another emotion-filled technique, is simply putting a string orchestra in your song. I feel like we're getting back to that with a lot of artists, and I think their songs have become more emotional because they are putting strings in their songs. Something about a simple string orchestra can really just bring out the emotion in people, and I love it. One chord change I did want to highlight is in the chorus on the line, pretending you're strong can be so overrated, because he goes from A major to A minor, so one little note changes the entire feeling of that line. In the middle of that line, it's so gorgeous. It's a very popular way to add drama, to change from a major to a minor chord in the parallel keys, which are same name. Parallel keys are the same note name, but, the major and minor version. Relative key is where you have one key signature, two keys. So B flat, major, G minor. There you go. Music theory terms. Yeah. The last song I really wanted to talk about was Orbiter by Noah Kahan. And this is a song that is... he's just the master of heartache, you guys. Man, this song really gets me, and I think it gets a lot of people. I think this brings out a very raw feeling in a lot of people, and he just does it on every album. He has songs that make people just go wow, and like have their jaws drop and all of that wonderfulness. He is employing a lot of musical devices to help make this song so emotional, to just vulnerable, emotional, just raw, I guess is the word we're going to go with for everything. But it really can only take you so far in a song like this, because in any song really, because if you cannot relate to a song in any way, shape, or form, you're not going to feel like it's very raw or emotional. You're going to think, oh, cool, a song, and that's it. There's not going to be anything. You're not going to think anything of it. But in this song, it is very relatable, and the effect of it is much larger than you would have thought, because people are connecting to it and sharing it and finding other people it connects to. And it makes me think of when in an interview, Noah Kahan said, like, sad music doesn't make me sad, it makes me feel connected. And I think this is the feeling that comes for a lot of people from sad music, and I think that's where that heartache comes from, is it makes you feel connected to the artist, to other people who enjoy the song. And I think that is the biggest thing that makes your heartache in this song, is that you can connect and other people connect and you feel connected. I did want to share a few of my favorite lyrics from this song, so I'm just going to read them off. I'm not really going to talk about them much. Some people don't know why they're wolves. They just howl for the sound of it. That's my favorite lyric from this song. My sister loves this next one. Some will never know they're beautiful until a crowd points it out for them. And those are in succession, which is really fun. I look back and you laugh, and this is hard, but I feel less far. So it's already talking about a feeling of connectedness with someone else in this song, which, helps. And of course, the one that was trending on social media, even anxious pups need the moon. I howl for you. I sing to you. I circle you. With the trill is just perfect. I love when artists use a trill to sustain notes. It just makes it so beautiful. It consumes my mind. But yeah, those are some of the ways that people make you feel heartache through their music, and I hope that you are able to notice those devices a lot more, because I think even if you don't relate to the specific songs I chose that make my heart ache, I think you'll be able to find songs that make your heart ache and be able to recognize the devices that people use to make them so heartfelt. I am very excited for next week's episode. We are talking about Joshua Bassett's upcoming album, Easier the Album, and I will see you guys then.